Hey guys, welcome back to Body Bags. I am Critter Buster, and first off, I want to apologize for missing last week. I was sick. I still have a little bit. You can probably hear it in me. I just wasn't able to do a review last week. But I want to say thanks to Matt from You and Your Horror Movies reviews. He filled in for me and did a good job on his films reviews. But this week, I am back. I am a little bit better, and it is Halloween week here on the channel. And I watched them. I'm assuming that the theme is anything that is revolving around Halloween time or takes place on Halloween. Then we can review for that film. So I went a little bit obscure, and I chose a film from one of these multi-packs here. The film is from 2010, and it's called Tales of the Dead. And I looked it up on IMDb, and IMDb lists it as Tales from the Dead. But on the back of the DVD cover here, the full title is Tales from the Dead, The Grim Stories of Curses, Horror, and Gore, which is a really long title. I see why it was trimmed down on IMDb. It was a really short movie, though. It was only 75 minutes long, and there's basically 5 stories on this. So to have 5 stories in that little time, all the stories had to have been about 15 minutes long, and that's pretty short for when you're trying to tell an actual story. But anyways, yes, it is an anthology story based from the title there. Now, first thing I want to say is that this was very, very amateurish. When I was watching this, it felt like I was watching a student film, like a very first thing that a student film or that a student at a film school would do. It was like his first attempt at making anything and putting something together. That's what it felt like to me. It was very difficult to watch. I did not like it at all. The stories themselves were just hard to follow. I didn't know really what was going on at any time. So what I'm about to tell you about the stories will probably be very vague, basically because I really had no understanding of the stories that much. And I'll explain why closer to the end. But the first story that the main thing is that there's these 5 friends that gather around on Halloween night. This is what the Halloween theme has to deal with it. Nothing else in the story or in the movie is Halloween related whatsoever, except for the fact that these 5 friends are telling stories to each other on Halloween. That's the only thing. So the first story that they tell is called Less is More. I had to write them down because I couldn't remember the titles at all. It's called Less is More. And it's about this lady who has a disorder, a body disorder, where she feels like she can never have a perfect body, even though the lady playing the part doesn't. So why she would feel that way, I don't know. So she always has to attempt to cut herself or hurt herself and make her body imperfect in any way she possibly can. And this is like her husband or boyfriend or whatever he was always arguing with her. They're always fighting about the situation. And all of a sudden at the end of it, it just shows her laying on the floor and this guy, which I think it was actually her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, is cutting her legs and arms off. So maybe, and she was enjoying it. So I don't know if, it just ended as soon as you saw that. I don't know if he was actually trying to kill her or if he was just trying to help her out, and that's what she was going to live with the rest of her life, was that. It was very hard to follow. Again, that's all I got from it was the fact that she had the disorder and that she just wanted to keep hurting herself because of the disorder. The next story is called Wolf Cry, and it was extremely hard to follow as well. I literally have no clue what was going on in this story. But it's about this young kid who really wants to make movies, like horror movies and stuff, and everything that he sees with his eyes kind of plays out in a horror way. So if something happens in the room that's not quite right, he doesn't just be like, oh, what's that? All of a sudden, every story or whatever kicks in, and you start seeing that. So there's a scene where his mom's trying to open up his bedroom door, and the door locks. So she's jiggling the handle, and all of a sudden in his mind he starts seeing like these horrible visions and everything playing out from that situation. And then it kicks back into the actual door opening up and her telling, why is the door locked, all this stuff. Um, and then all of a sudden he starts getting attacked by these monsters and creatures, and he's like running away, and it's intercut with him being told by people that, it's filmmaking isn't, something he needs to be doing. It was strange. I could not follow this at all. I had no clue what was going on, and I tried. I paid attention to these. I was trying my hardest to figure out what was going on. I just could not. The third story is called Penance, and apparently this one, according to IMDb, was actually a longer feature film version, and this one was cut down just to put into the story because the director directed all these stories, the same director. And it's about a detective who is looking for a serial killer. And when you first watch it, you see this guy is in this room with this girl, and then it cuts away from the room to the police detective getting a call saying that there's a problem and he needs to come, and it's actually that girl in the room. And I thought the guy in the room and the detective was the same person. So I was getting really confused. I still have no clue whether or not it's the same person, because he comes in contact with somebody else who starts talking about the woman, and they kind of look alike, and I wasn't sure. Still have no idea. But he's just trying to find the serial killer, and he's basically just, a mad person anyway, so he keeps yelling at all of his detectives and stuff about trying to help out finding the serial killer. He keeps getting messages from someone saying, oh, well, there's clues here, go look. And trying to have a story about a serial killer leaving clues for someone does not need to be 15 minutes or less, because it's really hard to follow and piece together everything in that amount of time. So you need a lot longer story, and apparently if it had been a longer story like it says on IMDb, it might have been more interesting and more easier to follow. The last story is called The Cromwell Curse, and it is a point of view found footage type movie, and there's like a story about these witches that were hung on Cromwell Street, and is anybody that steps on the land is now cursed for their life. And so these guides go out and they're going to videotape themselves going into Cromwell Street. So they do, and the guys, every time that somebody sees something or hears something, you don't see it. It's like, picture Paranormal Activity, but every time that you're waiting for something to happen, somebody reacts to something, but you never see it. So these people are just like, oh, I saw a face up in the window up in that building up there. Did you see it? No, run. It was really, really annoying to see everybody react to something you're not seeing at all. And, sorry. So yeah, just having somebody react to something that you're not seeing or hearing. And it's like, the one part is, this guy's like, I keep hearing footsteps coming up behind me. And he's like, guys, do you hear that? And they're like, yeah, I hear it. Let's go. And they take off running. And you don't hear anything or know what's going on. So they get back to their house. And the next day they do research, find out that all this stuff is supposedly true. And then their friend calls them and tells them that he's already at the Cromwell Street and they need to go meet him there. They drive back to the Cromwell Street, and the woman that's with them, she's waiting in the car by herself, and then she screams a horrible, pathetic scream, which sounded completely fake. And then they go back to the car, and she's gone, and the story just ends. There's nothing after that whatsoever. So they're like, oh, where'd she go? She's gone. Cuts to black, and it goes back to the people telling a Halloween story. So I have no idea how the story ends, really, except for the fact that someone disappeared from the car within a matter of 20 seconds. After that, it cuts back to the Halloween story, or the Halloween people telling the stories. And basically they are just saying, oh, well, if you want to hear something really scary, there's a local legend that's really true about a serial killer who kills people who gather up Halloween time and do decorations and stuff on Halloween. And there's this weird monster hand that walks up, goes up the window, and it cuts to black, and you hear like a monster roar, and that's it. Then it goes into the credits of all the stories. I don't advise watching this movie at all. I did not find any entertainment in any of the stories. They were very hard to follow, and like I said, that it definitely felt like someone was piecing together their films from film class. And no offense to anybody who's done film school and anything. I went to film school, and I'd studied all that stuff, and I did short films and stuff, and I know that they always don't look the best and sound the best and everything, but it just felt like this guy was making all these together, saying, you know, because his name is all over the place on these credits. Like, every single time you see something pop up, it's this guy's name. And it's just like, I can't explain it. You'd have to see it to understand what I mean by these, about it feeling like a, about it feeling like a student film, but it definitely did, in my opinion. So I just can't really say much about this anymore, except for the fact if you are interested in anthologies, check it out. You might get some pleasure from it. I did not. But thanks guys for watching. Sorry about the long review this week, but anthologies are kind of hard to tell a review for without going in each individual story. And hopefully I'll get over this cold by next week, and and I'll be back with a better voice and sound for you guys for next week's review. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.